In my last episode, I built a prototype engine block heater from my old diesel heater, and now it's almost fully installed and operational, although I've got a lot to get through before I finalise this build. To start with though, I'm doing a warranty voiding upgrade on my Allpower's solar charger, which is a risk, but I'm tired of cigarette plug style connectors. So I've bought some more generic ones and I'm installing them into the battery alongside converting all of my camping appliances to use this connector type. This should ensure that they don't pop out, resulting in the diesel heater overheating and potentially melting internally, which has almost happened a couple of times now. I'm really at the final stages of this project now, making this engine, tent, cab, diesel heater, but you saw it working in the last video, so it does have legs and it does work. I tried it in -30 and in about 3.5 to 4 hours, which is a long time, but they're pretty damn cold temperatures. I had the engine at about 32 to 33 degrees C. The oil was warm, the cab was super hot. It's a great system and I don't have to muck around with it or touch it. I just push a button on my key, fires up, and it does the job. The only thing I really have to adjust is the vent, whether I want it in the cab or in the roof tent. But, you know, that should all be here tomorrow, that stuff, and then the final plumbing will be done. So the question is now, can the fridge and the diesel heater run at the same time? I wonder. Yeah, that's going, but obviously it's going to draw about 120 watts on startup, and then it drops down to about 20 or 30 when it's running. So it's overloading. So it seems like both things on startup aren't ever going to run together. You know, the fridge is going to draw about 50 watts, this is going to pull about 120, so it's not going to work. 130 is the cutoff for the battery unit. So once this is actually warmed up, it's going to pull about 20 to 30 watts, the same with the fridge. So then they'll work together, but it's just good for me to know that. Now the diesel heater's finished its startup procedure, the fridge can run alongside it, although I'll be honest, I rarely use the fridge on its cold setting given the climate I live in. But more concerning, my carbon monoxide detector has signalled a warning of the presence of CO in the Jeep. This is something that I can't ignore, and I suspect it's exhaust fumes travelling up the engine bay and getting sucked into the intake that I've placed at the top. So I'm going to remove the intake pipes while airing out the garage and the Jeep, and with 20 minutes past, the presence of CO is cleared up now. But I'm going to have to conduct more tests outside in a non-enclosed environment when the unit's finished. I can't go much further on finishing this build until the ducting has arrived, so in the meantime I'm moving on to spraying cavity wax inside the box rockers and frame. This is an important job, and for this I use Dinitrol 3125, and normally I repeat this job every 5 years. But since I did some welding recently on the box rockers, including welding the 3-link brackets on the frame, I've decided to redo all of the box channels just to be sure they're covered. It's a job I've been putting off for a while, spraying inside the box rockers and in the frame. Obviously I've done it actually in the last 10 years that I've owned the Jeep twice, so this will be the third time. Really just 2 cans, 1 can one side, 1 can the other, and then a little bit here and there just where I think maybe it could use a little bit more. Dinitrol should really last about 10 years, but because I've been doing welding, like you saw me do the repair in a previous video, and I noticed a few spots where I'd done other welds, like with the 3-link kit to the frame stiffener. I just wanted to ensure that, you know, I hadn't burnt away any of that protection. You sort of want those drain holes to look like really dirty bum holes, and you don't want to wipe them. It isn't like, you know, when you're at home. This is different. That foamy brown ring on the edge of that drain hole, it's going to save your life. Well, it's going to save your Jeep's life. I'm putting on this little splash plate back on, and you can see some plastic spacers there. I've got 4 of those on each side, and they just maintain that gap. When this metal plate is pushed up directly against the box rocker, it just takes the Raptor Liner away and it rusts. And then I end up having to repaint all this side bit here. So just kind of learnt from my past mistakes. It seems a bit anal because it is. I think one common concern I always hear, and rightfully so, is doesn't dirt build up on these and snow and everything and stay there and get sandwiched between the bottom of the floor pan or whatever you've done under there and this? And the answer is no. They're not skid plates, they're splash plates, they're for rock rash, and there's a very big gap between this and the bottom of the floor, probably that much. Now, they don't salt the roads here, so maybe if they did, it would be a different story, but I don't know, you'd have to tell me that.
The ducting still hasn't arrived, which gives me the excuse to revisit the ladder build on the rear. I want to make the rungs into steps, and I've got an idea of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to use some bent tube, so the rungs stick out a little bit more like a step, and I might put some checker plate aluminium on top just to finish it off.
Well, there's the extensions in place. They're looking pretty good. I've actually got all the doors open today. It's -1 outside. Feels like summer. But some of these welds have gone okay. Others look like dog shit. Yeah, the whole point is, I know some of you said grip tape, but the thing is once you start walking on grip tape, it gets clogged with snow. It freezes. It just sort of becomes useless. So got to weld the rest of it, grind some of the abominations away, and then it's prime and paint.
Given I'll be spraying the ladder with Raptor Liner, I might as well spray the things I missed last time. I personally hate paintwork of any kind, to be honest, but it has to be done, and in the long run it will be worth the effort.
Well, forgive me for not filming that, but you know, the camera gear would get absolutely smashed with overspray, even if it was the other end of the garage. So these are all painted and looking pretty good, but I've left this overnight. It's going to take about 5 days to cure kind of semi-properly. It's probably going to be a couple of weeks though before it really is so hard that you could walk on it. But one thing to note is you cannot get water on Raptor Liner in the first 3 days, or it will go kind of like a weird grey colour. But other parts of the tyre carrier I just topped up. There were lots of patches on those that had no Raptor at all. It was just like a standard matte black rattle can, so it should all look pretty uniform. But anyway, put it back together. Little bit of old grease around the greasy hole. There we go. Easy does it. You don't want to touch the paint. Just want to rip the rubber. There. Well, I'm glad that work's over with, and I actually managed to pull it off with such a little overspray around the garage. I really took my time masking everything off, just making sure that I keep this place neat and tidy. Yeah, it's a clean job anyway. I've put some plastic caps on the nylon lock nuts, so you know, it looks nice basically. Tyre carrier's looking good anyway. But my next job, or like what I'd like to do, I've got this piece of aluminium here. I'm just going to put it there like that and put birdseed on it, so as I'm driving along I'm giving back. But what I really want to do with it is carry out some little kind of half moon shapes and actually have them on each piece like that, so it's like a step. So that's what I'm going to try and do. It might look shit, but it might not. We'll see.
I'm using a heavy seam sealer adhesive to fix them in place for now, and this will provide some cushioning which will avoid the paint failing underneath over time. But when the adhesive is dry after 12 hours, I will drill and screw them in place just to be sure. But the ladder has turned out much better than I expected, and not only is it looking good, but I think it will be pretty functional when my boots are clogged with ice and snow. But finally, the ducting has arrived, which includes a 3-inch Cobra head for the clearance issues on the intake side. And this ducting is 250°C canvas PVC pipe, which can negotiate some pretty tight bends while keeping its internal diameter. I'm on the final stages now, and I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But the valve duct I ordered is lost in transit, which leaves me no choice but to try and make my own. I already have a Y duct, so it's just a matter of making some valves inside it. I really hope this works, because I want to get this project done and get back out in the XJ.
So this is basically what I'm having to do, and I think it's going to work pretty well. I've used these caps, like furniture hardware, basically at the bottom there, and you know, basically drilled through it, and it's just going to open and close like that. I'm going to have a lever on here somewhere that I have to build, so that's open, that's closed. So that's going to go in there like that, and then we'll put our plate in, see if it fits. Yeah, and then I suppose that will hopefully go around. It might need shaving down.
The Y valve is complete, and I actually think it might work better than the one I ordered. But before I install it, I'm drilling an external outlet to connect the roof tent duct to. I do want it on the outside of the Jeep, but I want this to be a reversible job if ever things were to change. At least this way I can use the spare cowl I have to cover up the hole as if it was never there. And this also keeps the duct to the roof tent very, very short. I'll keep that if ever I need to put it back. Most things are in place and the stage is set for the valve and ducting, so now it's time to connect the dots and hopefully get this project finished. If it all works well, this is going to be a really big upgrade for my winter overland Jeep. Being able to preheat the engine, cab and tent all at the same time is a huge benefit.
This pipe work is a great choice if you're going to do this project. This is fantastic. It's very rigid and maintains some good angles. It's just staying out the way of all the important stuff. But what I've done is I've put screws into the cowl on these cables, these hose clamps here, so they sort of keep it in place. You can buy obviously specific stuff for that. I just didn't have anything. So that's it, kind of all tacked in place. So these two things here keeping it away from the pump and everything. We've got plenty of space. Should be sound. Obviously if you want to disconnect the unit, it's pretty easy. You just take that out, undo that clip, the whole thing just drops out. You can rip it off with the exhaust if need be in the case of a problem, but still need to figure out where this is going to go. I just don't have the hose. Well, I've been working away on this for a while, and this is kind of what I've come up with. This is going to be secured in place. It just isn't at the moment, but the piping does keep it pretty secure. And you've got two rods that go inside the cab. Obviously, you pull that one, and you know that's the roof tent one, which is going to come up to this duct here, and then come out here, where you can connect a hose up to, but I just need to find a good outlet with a cap and stuff to stop the weather getting in. And it's the same with this one down here. This is the one for the cab, and that operates like that, open and closes. That one's probably going to be open all the time at most because of preheating the cab, but when camping I just come in here, and this looks shit, I know, but you know, it's a prototype, as I keep telling myself. You've got two knobs without grommets right now, got to do that. Pushing is open and pulling is closed. I really have no idea if you can see what I'm doing, but I've basically screwed in a hose clamp just here, drilled through here, and you will need to put some cavity wax there. The idea is that the last hose clamp will hold this in place like that. So then this can just be held kind of more rigid. So I'm going to see if I can do that. I actually managed to do that. I don't know how. This is in the way, so if you do it, you could always just do it a little bit that side. Just remember from my mistakes. I'm just going to warm it up with the heat gun, kind of fold it over. I'm going to make him fold. Okay, while it's still warm. Whoa, let's send in old Snake Jr. Come on there, boy. Don't be alright, bastard. Stupid thing. Oh, this really doesn't feel good. There we go. Well, that's a clean hole though. Yeah. It's a clean hole. I can tidy that up and I can make that work. So this might look really strange what I'm doing here, but it's really just to make sure that I can take it apart later, because this is like Tiger Seal. This stuff isn't never going to come off, and what I'm doing is making sure this doesn't move. So there's not enough space really to put a rubber U-channel to protect the edge of the pipe. So I've kind of suspended it with tons of seam sealer holding it in place. Now obviously at a later stage you can Stanley it all out and take it apart, it's not a big problem. But you'll never get that panel off if you put that down now on that seam sealer. Always bag up. And obviously the reason I'm doing that is I just wanted to do it now, I don't want to wait. So it's like an impatient hack. So that's basically the way it's going to look for the time being. Or I buy something that looks good with a lid on it that can be put down and screwed in place like that. And then it has a little folding waterproof lid that could be popped open and a 3-inch outlet can be chucked in. Well, it's all done and all plumbed in, and I'll give you a little tour. So underneath the vehicle, here's the diesel heater. So this is basically finished. You know, this is just a little bit of armouring and stuff for vibration. I still haven't done that, actually. The Cobra head's in, and that just takes air from there. But I think I'm going to add something to that, but I just have to drop this duct. But right now I just can't be bothered. But if you want to take the whole unit out, you just unclip it and basically take that duct off and that, and the whole thing drops out. Well, obviously it's connected to a thermal exchanger to the thingamabobby, so you'd have to drain the coolant to remove it and maintain it properly, but you can change glow plugs by just dropping it down and letting it hang. So that's at least something. There's the valves and stuff. They're both shut at the moment, which is not a good idea. That looks shite, but you know, onwards and upwards. And in here you've got the two Spuddy Delaney plugs. Well, in fact, no, one of them is open because it's being pulled forward. I don't know which one that is. They're both shut now. So that one's open, which is the one for the vehicle. And that's the one for the tent, which is actually a bit stiffer, but still working fine. As I said, I'll sort these out with cables in the meantime, but that's how it'll be left standard. Pretty good shaky cam footage there for you all. It's like the good old days. And that's it. So the next thing is to test it. Well, here we go. It's been out here for a while. Everything seems to be running okay. Oil's getting probably nice and hot. It's got a little temperature probe in. There doesn't appear to be much bleed by, but I've just purchased a proper marine style valve that's going to go on there. It looks way better than that, and it has a lid on it. So there we go. -13 outside, 16 degrees C inside the vehicle. I've got the system running on 4.5 hertz, so lots of warm air.
Carbon monoxide is 0. That was actually from the other day with the exhaust. So that's good. So the ducting isn't burning, which is brilliant. Yeah, got some nice hot air coming out of there. That's fantastic. I've only been running this for, you can probably see that, 47 minutes, and it's on 4.5 hertz. So you can go up to 5.5 and run much, much hotter. And you can actually run this system while the vehicle's driving as well. And it produces more warm air than the actual Matrix. But just going to open the hood. Check this system out. It's pretty sweet, right? So with the Cobra style fitting, the intake is just there for the diesel heater at the moment, but I'm actually going to run a pipe up here somewhere and have it sort of cable tied against the cowl so it's a bit higher. Yeah, feels nice and warm though. I mean, like I said, it's only been running for 47 minutes, but it is warming the engine up, and this ducting is keeping a lot of the heat in actually. Very, very nice. In fact, that one's kind of cold because there's nothing getting past the vent, but we can open the vent. Now we got warm air coming out of there, so it's pretty cool. So there's plenty of hot air coming out here. I can push that, and now, yeah, very, very little warm air coming out of there. I expect some bleed by, but not a huge amount. And now it should all be coming out of here to go to the roof tent. Yeah, that's great. Loads of it. Well, that was one hell of a project, and I got to be honest with you, it wasn't a lot of fun. My hands are destroyed actually from doing that, but you know, it was worth it. It was worth it to be able to preheat the engine nice and hot for a few hours. The oil gets warm, you're heating inside the vehicle or in the tent or both, and you're not having to like set anything up apart from just kind of pop a little cap, put a hose on, run it into the rooftop tent, click a button on the key, and you're off. So it kind of eliminates a lot of hassle for me when I'm out with the vehicle. The point being is when you're out with a backpack and you're backpacking, the kind of inconveniences are a bit more allowable. When you're sort of building a rig yourself and you're doing all of the work to try and make it as functional as possible, you kind of get annoyed quite quickly, I find anyway, I do anyway, at kind of repetitive inconveniences. Because I'm going out quite frequently with the Jeep, and I noticed the things that kind of tire me out a little bit. And it's things like setting up the ladder for the roof tent, setting up the diesel heater, doing the ducting, doing the condensation removal of the tent, moving the battery to the front of the vehicle to then preheat the engine, which never gets preheated properly because 2 hours is nowhere near enough, and I don't have enough power left for 2 hours by the end of a couple of nights camping anyway. Solar's not working because it's winter, and it's like 7 months of winter here. So a lot of this stuff can kind of start to impede the functionality of like what you're doing, like putting the ladder on the back so it's just there all the time, and having a built-in diesel heater system that does the engine, the cab or the tent by the push of a button. You know, fantastic. The only thing I need to do now, connect a hose to the thingy-mabob up to the tent, and I'll just make a hanger on top of the duct so I can hang it on the awning, and then when I go up in the tent I just reach out of the window and pull it in. Hopefully it's the diesel heater duct and Bigfoot hasn't, you know, slipped something in there. He's always f***ing with me. But you know, anyway, if you do decide to do this, you can sort of look at the pre-made units out there. One thing I would recommend, if you're going to do this, maybe just save up, get a pre-made unit like I talked about in the last video. The thing is those units are a lot shorter than mine, and that's why I had to use that Cobra head, just because of the clearance problems. So now that infrastructure's in place, and mine maybe years down the line, whatever, if that diesel heater packs up and I buy a replacement, I'll probably buy a dedicated unit, and you know, with the built-in heat exchanger
at least all the other shit's already installed. So anyway, I've talked enough. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I don't know what the hell I'm going to call it. This is kind of the problem with my channel. I just kind of like, I think I get a lot of questions really, like, you know, when am I going to go out camping again? Just to answer that question, like, normally what I'm filming on this channel is just stuff I'm already doing. So like, this isn't something I've done for YouTube. This is for me, as is everything that you kind of see me getting up to. It's just me doing my thing. Whether the camera's rolling or not, I'd still be doing this. So the reason I haven't been out camping is I wanted to get all this shit squared away so that the vehicle's kind of really, you know, more ready to go out camping. Like, it's just done too many cold starts. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I can't take that risk, because in temperatures like below -20, metal gets brittle and things just don't work. You know, you never know, you might start the engine, a flipping conrod might go or something, you know, because it hasn't been preheated properly. Like, on a diesel engine, preheat is so important. I mean, like, I've had a ZJ V8, I've got a 4-litre Cherokee out there as well. They're way more forgiving for cold starts, but I still preheat them because they still don't like it. You know, when you get down in those low temps, you hear it in the engine. It's not happy. It's really bad for the cylinder walls. It's bad for all of it. You know, you just shouldn't do it. But anyway, that's kind of why I've really hammered this to get it done. And I hope you enjoyed this vid. So anyway, I'm knackered and hungry, and I'll see you again in another one. Take care, and thanks for watching. And also thanks to my Patreons for the support. I really appreciate it. You know, materials and stuff for these projects, you know, it really helps with all that stuff. So also my Pornhub prescription as well. Like, is it it's a subscription? I can't even do jokes anymore. I'm going. Bye.